The 2026 FIFA World Cup will have 104 matches. The 2022 World Cup had 64. FIFA added 40 extra games to the biggest sporting event on earth. They said it was about football development. Their own internal analysis projected hundreds of millions of dollars in additional profit. The vote was unanimous, and the real story of how that happened has almost nothing to do with football. On the 10th of January 2017, FIFA's governing council gathered in Zurich. 37 people voted on a proposal that would reshape the World Cup. Every single one voted yes. The tournament would expand from 32 teams to 48. FIFA's explanation was straightforward. More nations, more opportunity, more development. FIFA President Gianni Infantino said the decision should not be financially driven. The driver should really be the development of football. But there was one problem. The same internal report FIFA used to support the expansion reached another conclusion. The 32-team format produced the highest quality football. FIFA knew that, and expanded anyway. The 2018 World Cup in Russia generated approximately $6.1 billion in revenue for FIFA. FIFA's own internal research, presented before the expansion vote, projected that 48 teams would increase that figure by around $1 billion per tournament cycle. The projected additional profit after costs, $640 million. Per tournament. That was the number FIFA said should not drive the decision. Now look at what actually happened. The 2026 cycle has generated a projected $13 billion in total revenue for FIFA, nearly double the $6.5 billion from the 2019 to 2022 cycle. Broadcasting rights alone, $3.9 billion, up 30% from Qatar. The deal for the US market alone is worth $1.25 billion, nearly what the entire global broadcast package for 2018 and 2022 combined. Sponsorship, $2.4 billion, a record. Total commercial revenue from the 2026 tournament, over $6 billion, according to Ampere Analysis. Here is the mechanism that makes all of this possible. The old format had 64 matches. The 2026 World Cup has 104. Those 40 additional matches are not just football games. Each one is a broadcast window, a sponsorship activation slot, a hospitality package, a ticket revenue event, an advertising opportunity. FIFA didn't add 16 teams to the World Cup. It added 40 commercial assets to its most valuable product. But money alone doesn't explain why the vote was unanimous. For that, you need to understand how FIFA actually works. FIFA has 211 member federations. Each federation gets one vote. The United States gets one vote. Brazil gets one vote. Germany gets one vote. San Marino gets one vote. Vanuatu gets one vote. Every federation counts exactly the same. And that changes everything. When Gianni Infantino ran for FIFA president in 2016, expanding the World Cup was one of his central campaign promises. Not because the biggest football nations wanted it, because the smaller nations did. Africa had 5 World Cup spots. Asia had 4.5. Expansion changed that overnight. The federations who gained qualification spots, many of whom had never attended a World Cup, were the same federations voting for FIFA's president. This is not a coincidence. Expansion was simultaneously the most commercially profitable and the most politically popular decision FIFA could make. The federations that benefited most from more qualification spots are the same federations that make up the majority of FIFA's voting members. Vote against expansion, and you are voting to keep smaller nations out of the World Cup. Very few politicians, in football or anywhere, want to make that argument publicly. There is a legitimate counter-argument, and it deserves honest treatment. More teams means more football, more nations participating, more fan bases engaged, more countries with a genuine stake in the tournament. For a competition that claims to represent the world, that is not a trivial point. And for the small federations, Cape Verde, Curaçao, Jordan, who will earn more money from 1 month at this World Cup than their federation generates in years, the expansion is genuinely transformational. But FIFA's own research said it clearly. The 32-team format produces better football. The expansion adds a round of 32, a new knockout round that didn't exist before. The 2022 World Cup group stage was widely regarded as one of the most competitive in history. That was 32 teams. Quality and quantity are in direct tension here. FIFA chose quantity. Here is the detail that most people miss. FIFA has already indicated that if 48 teams is commercially successful, and based on the numbers, it clearly is, the next step could be 64 teams. South America's Confederation has already proposed expanding to 64 teams by the 2030 World Cup. FIFA's revenue for the 2027 to 2030 cycle is already projected at $14 billion. higher than the current cycle, before any further expansion is confirmed. The logic is the same logic that has driven every commercial expansion in modern sport. Once growth becomes the expectation, standing still feels like failure. The 1930 World Cup had 13 teams. It grew to 16 in 1934, to 24 in 1982, to 32 in 1998, to 48 in 2026. Each expansion was announced with language about development, inclusion, and football for the world. Each expansion generated more broadcast inventory, more sponsorship slots, and more revenue for FIFA. FIFA told you this decision was about development. It was also, simultaneously, structurally, and by their own internal analysis, about $640 million in additional profit per tournament. Both things can be true. More nations do get to participate. More federations do receive funding. The football is genuinely reaching new markets. But when an organization says a decision is not financially driven and then presents a financial analysis showing $640 million in additional profit, the honest question is not whether money was involved. The honest question is whether football would have made this decision if the numbers pointed in the other direction. FIFA's 2026 World Cup will generate $13 billion, the most in the tournament's 96-year history. The teams are better represented. The world is more involved. The revenue is significantly higher. Whether those goals are in alignment or whether one simply made the other easier to sell, that is the question FIFA prefers you don't ask.